Welcome to the Get Trauma Informed podcast, dedicated to unraveling the complexities of trauma, its pervasive impact, and the journey towards holistic recovery and realignment. If your radiance has ever felt muted, like I and thousands of others, you're in the right place to reignite your inner light. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to, I know I say a special episode quite frequently, but you all, I'm telling you, you are in for such an amazing treat. I am just tickle pink sitting here today. How are you today, Mr. Randy?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited,
Good,
naturally.
good. Good. You're excited, man. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm thrilled. And why am I nervous, y'all? Because this gentleman is absolutely amazing, y'all. And you know, I don't just blow smoke. I tell you the truth, right? I am so authentic and genuine in when I bring people on of this magnitude, you all. I want you to know. I want you to sit down, grab a piece of paper, make sure you have no distractions around. I'm telling you, I have learned so much in less than a year from I talk about my amazing coaches. Well, here you have an opportunity to meet one of my amazing coaches. So,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
So
You're
let's get
putting too much
started.
praise on me. I'm just a regular guy.
Y'all, I tell you.
Living a regular life.
Y'all, I tell you. Well, before we get started, as we get into the conversation, we always ask this question. What does get trauma informed mean to you?
I remember when you first asked me this question, right?
Yeah,
And I asked a question back for clarity. I said, get trauma informed about what? So
right.
it almost seemed when you asked me that question that it was incomplete. And that's what it meant to me. It meant that there seems to be more to say here. But obviously, when you can put those two words together, I would assume that it has to do with trauma, but not oftentimes people are aware, or in this case, informed about the trauma. Now, I've come to find out that it's just a whole field of understanding, trauma, and that's the kind of the title over it. But naturally, my curiosity led me to ask, yeah, get trauma informed about what?
And that question that you asked actually spun and opened up a lot of doors because that, like you said, a complete thought of get trauma informed for what? And as I've been collecting my data and talking to people, and it just opened up a whole new world of really possibilities in trauma recovery.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that's been so amazing and so remarkable about working with you and about being coached by you is that it's sort of like you don't know what you don't know until you know you didn't know it, that kind of thing, right? And so I knew from, I know that's a mouthful, but it's the truth because you really don't know. And then so, just going back to when we first met, you all, let me tell you this. And then I'll stop with the praise, I promise you. Well, maybe not, but when I was in a class, and when Randy came in, or Coach Randy came into the room, and he started talking about, or he was introduced as monetize your life, and he was talking about how to monetize, and I focused in, and sometimes you could meet someone and you know that you just know that you know, and I knew that I needed to meet him. He was not actually assigned to me as a coach, but I knew that I needed to meet him. And as we went through the program and he was able to become my coach, it's just been an amazing experience. He's opened up so many doors, and we're really going to get into today trauma and the entrepreneur. And we're going to talk a little bit about my journey, but again, like I said, it's just been so great because he's just really taking my business to the next dimension, right? When we talk about automations, and we talk about, just all of the different things that you need to do to make your business a success. Yeah, you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I can remember your eyes lighting up when, and I don't brag on myself, or any of that kind of stuff, right? So it's and perhaps that's trauma. I don't know, right? You don't want to get the big head. You hear that kind of stuff, and people kind of, help you dim your own light. And then when you hear praise, you kind of go, "Oh no, I'm just a regular guy," whatever it is. But I can remember your eyes lighting up when I started talking about um, monetizing things, right? How can you look at what you're doing and how can you look at what's happened to you and, turn it in a way that it works for you instead of against you? And that's what it really came down to, and in a monetizable way, right? So if we start thinking about the trauma and we start thinking about all the things that you have found to hold you back, and we ask ourselves that bigger question of, well, how can I leverage this? How can I leverage this in the business that I run, in the life that I want to live, in the dreams that I want to fulfill? And then how can I put it in a way, in other words, package it in a way that I can eventually present it and then profit from it, right? That's my 3P framework. Package it, present it, and then profit from it. And then when I started talking about that stuff, and your eyes were just like, saucers over there. And I kind of knew too that perhaps I could help you in your business, take it to
Absolutely.
where you wanted to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, because and I like to stay there just for a minute because, I've been an entrepreneur for many, many, many years. And I always knew that there was a missing component, right? People would tell me how amazing my products, my services were,
Mhm.
but I wasn't able to monetize them the way that I knew that they could be. And I just didn't know again what I didn't know. And so when you started talking about your systems and you talked about your processes, and then I think one of the things that honestly and truly brought tears to my eyes is when you saw my vision. And oftentimes other people will see your vision. That's why they say be careful with who you share it with,
Yeah.
because they'll steal that light from you because they'll tell you, wow, that's too much. Bring it down to just this. But in the case when I met you, you were like, no, do
More,
more. And I
do
was like,
more.
do more? Wait, I'm excited because I'm a creator. So I can create
Yeah.
more. But the thing of it was, I think I was creating all of these puzzle pieces. And then you started to glue them together and say, wait, this is how you move forward. And this is how you do this. And have you considered this? And just, the way
Hmm.
that you actually saw the vision and really popped it was just so incredible to me. And so, when you're coaching, when you're being coached, it is absolutely imperative that you trust your coach, right? And so they may tell you to do some things and they may not feel comfortable, but if you do the recipe, because in trusted coaches, like you've done it, you've actually done the work, you've produced the product, you monetized, you've made money from it and you're very successful at it. So why would I, this is a hint, everybody, why would I as a as a mentee or being coached as a client, why would I buck the system that has proven the results before? And that's
Yeah.
that's the stance that I took. And some of the things that you told me, even the gut shots, were like, ouch. But guess what? Yes, that's right. That works.
Yeah. And again, when I can remember us talking about a few things, and I can see that look in your eye like, what? Wait, that's not what I'm used to. That's not what I've done before. And again, if you think about how trauma informs even your resistance to things. Now you can look at that and go, okay, why aren't I open to let somebody coach me?
Mhm.
Why aren't I open to, I can't see around this corner, but this person has been around that corner and they know that once you go through this whatever dark alley, there is light around the corner. How come I can't trust that? And we start peeling away, I think, the resistance to stuff like that. And once you can peel away the resistance, or if you have someone there saying, just come with me, just come with me. Just follow my footsteps. Hear me and follow my footsteps, even though you can't see it. And I can tell y'all is that Liz was like, I can't see it, bro. I don't see it. And I says, well, just trust the footsteps. Keep walking forward. And eventually, once you got to the light, you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize all this light exists. And I think I remember saying, and I don't really talk, I don't want to talk about like from a physical standpoint, gut punch or whatever that kind of hits hard or whatever, using those kind of words, especially in this environment. But I think when I was able to say, I think your ladder's up against the wrong wall. In fact, I know it is. It was
Right.
like saying, what do you mean? All of this effort
Hmm.
that I've been putting in is essentially wrong. And
Hmm.
I was like, yeah. I says it's wrongly placed. You had a discipline like nobody I've ever seen. That's why I agreed to work with you. It's like I saw a person that showed up, a person that put in a good day's work, B, and then at a person that if you just put the ladder up against the wrong or the right wall, will succeed. Period. Period. And then we started working together, and you're like, bro, I think my ladder's up against the right wall, but I'm gonna trust that you say it's not. And then once we placed it on the right wall, then all of these other things started falling into place, right? That consistency, that ability to just go forward kind of stuff, that work ethic on the right wall, then start working for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And something that you just mentioned too, when we talk about trauma and trauma recovery, trauma steals your ability to trust. Now think
Yeah.
about that. If you're building a
Yes.
business and then you're in this cocoon, you're using your own self as your own frame of reference.
Yeah.
So, this if this is something that you are challenged with or that you deal with, then we may want to consider that you may have some unresolved trauma. And the thing that happens that we don't understand is that we think that we're showing up and we have the optics that we're okay, but on the
Hmm.
inside you're fragmented or you're shattered. And so
Hmm.
as you're showing up, you're making decisions off of that fragmented part of yourself. So if you face the trauma, then part of you is still stuck in that trauma until you resolve it. And oftentimes we swallow it. We continuously bury it and we keep moving. But now we're only operating on about 70% of us or 70% of our capacity because that 30% is gone. And if you think
Hmm.
about like myself and my situation, I've had trauma from conception. I mean, from not even just from birth, but as I was forming in my mom's womb, I had trauma, being a product of domestic violence. So I had trauma after trauma after trauma. So still in being persistent and being diligent and knowing that I knew without a doubt and holding on to my faith, I knew that there was a better day, a brighter day. I just didn't know how to get to it. Right. And then as I started, I'm a praying woman. So as I started to pray and ask, I actually prayed and manifested you into my life. I never told you that, but I asked for people to come into my life that were of high caliber, that didn't mind sharing what they knew and would help me to move to the next level. And as I continued to pray that, that's what started to manifest and happen in my life. And so I'm saying that in frames or in regards to trauma recovery, that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this is because I've lived it. It's been my whole life. And I've lived it really literally like through a kaleidoscope. How the kaleidoscope, the you just don't know, the picture is not clear. But then when you have people that come into your life that can help restore that trust, and as you go through your trauma recovery, that is what helps to make things to get into like a clear focus, and then you can move forward, and then you can achieve the success when you have again coaches like yourself that are willing to roll your sleeves up and really get in there and really help or really support, really assist.
That's interesting to hear because trauma within the entrepreneurial community or the trauma in an entrepreneur is real. It's so real. And we wonder why oftentimes some of the businesses that we start, they don't succeed in a specific way. And because you said it there, right? You got maybe to 50% of the 70% that you have, with the other 30%, consumed in or being in pieces. So then we wonder, well, why do I always start stuff, let's say, for example, for the entrepreneur that doesn't finish anything, right? And I suffered from that for a long time. Being a person that loves ideas, I could get it to a level and then I would lose interest. Well, because somewhere in there, you continually like starting things. There's something that it provides to you. It's something that it gives you back. And the ideal of finishing something suggests something else. There's something that was a lock or a block in there. So sometimes you need someone to help you unlock that things, right? It could be in the case of what you're doing on the trauma informed side, Or it could be in the case of what I'm doing in helping people unblock things within their mindsets, unblock things within, what they see that their belief in their business, belief in themselves, which is oftentimes the case. It's a belief in oneself. And then when you can show a system and says, well, you don't have to have belief in yourself, believe in the system. Believe that if you do X, Y, Z, it will work. Right. And then once you can release that, that becomes the opportunity for the entrepreneur. And it's really interesting. I didn't even, say who I was, but when I started my business, I started out of pain. And my business is Our Bridge Business Institute. And it kind of serves as a holding company for other things that I love to start. And it was because I looked at the fact that I was starting so many different things and I wasn't finishing stuff, but I at least needed a place to put them. So I created the holding company, Our Bridge Business Institute, as a way to just go, I'm going to try a lot of stuff. I'm going to see what works. And then I'm going to teach out what works and what doesn't work. That's when the coaching started. That's when the facilitation started. That's when the book started, all of that. So then from that holding company, now I pull out other companies, Randy Austin Publishing, Publishing Arm, Citizen CEOs, where I'm just helping ordinary people start extraordinary businesses, the Monetize Your Life guy. All of these things come out of initial pain of not knowing what to do, not knowing how to finish, and just saying, you know what, forget it. I'm going to lean into it. And that's where we get lean into that thing that you see as a deficit until it becomes something that put together could become a ladder to climb up against up the right wall, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said something key earlier. And you said sometimes you have a lot of pieces. And I like to say, well, that's painting by numbers. So if you ever looked at a painting by number thing, they just got a whole bunch of numbers. And if you just follow the numbers, it will show you a picture, period. But some people go, well, I can't see it because they won't follow the numbers. They won't follow the systems. They won't follow the advice or whatever it is, the coaching. They go, I can't see it. Well, it's not meant to be seen yet because all it is a bunch of pieces. It's meant to be put together. And sometimes you have to have somebody that says, okay, you see that one? Start there and go all the way until you get to 100 and your picture will show up.
Mhm.
And if you just go, yeah, but I don't see it, are you resisting it? But I'm gonna do it. And this is why I found that you were doing. You said, I'll do it. And you started painting, you just started connecting the dots, and next thing you know, you saw the picture, and the picture turned into some money.
Absolutely. And that was the incredible part. Again, like I said, we're when you have trauma in entrepreneurship, you're not just working through this, just think about it, that just somebody without trauma that's working through entrepreneurship, that's one path. But now you're talking about in entrepreneurship, it's a lot to it, right? But now you're talking about working through unknown or trauma that you're not aware of,
Mhm.
and then the whole thing about entrepreneurship. So again, like I said, that
Yeah.
was one of the things that I was just so grateful for with you, is because getting through that trauma, you need somebody that you can trust, right? Somebody that you can trust. And we have a gut feeling, we have a sense, what is it, a sixth sense or something like that, of
Hmm.
somebody that you really can trust with it, because it was the election of words. And you all, and when you're going through coaching, iron sharpens iron. So we're not talking about sugarcoating anything, but it's just the way in which you delivered the message, the way in which you taught, the way in which you coached, and it really opened up something for me, that it was a safe place to be vulnerable, to talk about my vision, to talk about my business, to give you the whole gamut. Because being a creator, and I don't know if that's has anything to do with trauma. I think that has something to do with just what I was born with, being a creator, being creative. And I
Hmm.
just love to create. And I know that's what entrepreneurs do. We love to create. But again, like I said, you just had a way of making me feel like just like I could do it another day, other than somebody giving you negative, saying, no, that's too big, that's too much, pull it
Hmm.
in, just do this one thing. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do this one thing. It's going to turn into this and turn into that. And you're
Yeah.
like, keep creating, like, this is amazing. So
Yeah. It's the
yeah,
walk. It's
yeah.
that. And the reason why I think that's effective, and why I've been so effective in helping coach people is I don't tear down that idea. As
Mhm.
I say, well, okay, but show me where we're going with it. And then oftentimes, if you can't show me where you're going with that particular idea, then it'll inform you itself,
Mhm.
right? The idea will say, yeah, I don't think this is where we should be going together, right?
Yeah, right.
A person could come to me and in this day and age could say something like, hey, I want to start a VHS store. And I go, you do realize that there's not even VHS players. But I don't
Right,
tear the idea down. I'll say,
right.
all right, well, go out there into the marketplace and see about the history of VHS. And then they may discover, wait a minute, there's no more VHS. They stream stuff now. And I go, well, let's think about it like this. What is on VHS? And somebody might go, well, there's movies. Okay, so we got movies. The medium, therefore, wall, ladder up against the wrong wall, needs to be changed.
All right.
Not the whole idea. I want to do what with VHS? What I want to put this stuff on there so I can show the world. Okay. Well, how else could you do that? Given the medium is different. Well, I guess I could figure out how to stream it. Yes, you could. And then now you've discovered the problem and the fact that it was up against the wrong wall and you put it on the right wall and now you can go and make money.
Absolutely. And I like that part though. You said now you can go and make money. And
Mhm.
that's what started to happen, and something that you told me that it tickles me now, but before it was like, oh, shake me. You said they just don't want it. And that's a hard thing to hear when
It
you're
is.
when you're creating and you think, oh, I know what somebody wants better than what they think. I mean, that's the inner talk, that you're saying to yourself. But the thing that you taught me I utilize it almost every day. You said do the research, find out what people want,
Yeah.
find out and use the data and use it. And I was not a data person, but you put that, and that's something that I'll continuously, and that's what a great coach does, everybody. They help you to be better, right? And so therefore you take that coaching with you everywhere that you go. And so I think about that as I'm moving through and creating my more in my business. I think about that. Go find out what they want, because you make a meal, you make a vegan meal for somebody that's not vegan, just like what you said, I don't want it. Right.
Right. And you can say, but it's
So
the best vegan meal ever. It's good for you and all this
right,
stuff. And you go, yeah, but I eat meat. Well,
right.
what's up? I'm a meatitarian, right? I'm not this other
Exactly,
thing. So
exactly.
ladder up against the wrong wall. But if you
Right.
had just says, hey, what do you typically like to eat? And then that person says, well, I like meat. Now you go, I can go find you some meat and sell
Mm-hmm.
them that. And
Right,
they go, thank you. Because
right.
now you've just basically you didn't go against the grain, so you didn't swim against the tide. You've heard all these type of things. You used information from a question to get to what they like, and then you just supply that. Oh,
Absolutely.
that's much better.
Absolutely, absolutely. As we continue through, we talk about trauma empowering and inspiring you. How has trauma empowered and inspired you?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine driving down the road, enjoying a beautiful day, when suddenly a tree jumps out in front of your car. Crash! In an instant, your life is flipped upside down, both physically and psychologically. That was my reality. I'm Liz Blanding, a certified holistic wellness and trauma recovery coach. In a time when, according to the National Center for PTSD, the epidemic of trauma is on the rise, 70% of adults in the U.S. have experienced some type of traumatic event at least once in their lives. That's 223.4 million people who could benefit from support on their journey to recovery. To address this, I launched the Get Trauma Informed podcast in March 2024. Our podcast offers free information, resources, expert advice, and stories of those who have overcome trauma and shifted from surviving to thriving. The podcast has the capacity to reach hundreds of thousands of people. I believe that by partnering with the Get Trauma Informed podcast, we can provide critical support to many more people who need it. Trauma was not their fault, but recovery is their responsibility. And with your support, we can help them to achieve it. Thank you for considering the partnership opportunity. I look forward to the possibility of working together to make a significant impact on trauma recovery. Email us at info@oasiswellnessctrs.com or contact us at 616-320-0703. Now we will return to our Get Trauma Informed conversation.
Well, I like to think I can remember saying earlier how I started a business out of pain. And started thinking about how has throughout my life when I started things or stopped things, how was the degree of pain, how was that informing me or degree of trauma? I can remember, and this is something small, y'all might not care about this, but I remember when I bought my first piece of property. And it was because I was like, I'm paying this guy rent. Me and my roommate, we were paying this dude rent. And he wouldn't fix stuff, and I thought I'm upset about that, right? And I started thinking, just out a little thing like that. There's pain there, right? I didn't want to pay this rent. And I started thinking, even at like 19 years old, I was like, this is going to be painful if I got to keep paying this guy rent. And I started literally looking around to be able to buy my own property that I could pay myself. So a little bit of pain and the fact that, I felt used by dude, right? Getting that rent every month. And it caused enough agitation and enough pain that I went out and says, well, couldn't I do that myself? Couldn't I become the landlord myself and then pay myself? So I went and bought a two-family. That was the very first property I bought. It was a two-family, a piece of property. And I started thinking about that. I says, if he can get rent, I can pay myself rent, and then I can rent out to others. And that's what it was. I rented out the top, and that paid for almost all of my mortgage, literally almost all. So then when I got rent from my roommate, then I was golden then. So I think about something small like that, and then I started thinking about other areas listen, regular guy stuff, right? I'm telling you, I'm a regular dude. I used to drive a pizza car. And I used to say, man, they got us out here driving our own vehicles, right? Messing up our insurance, messing up our brakes. I can't tell you how many brakes had to get. Then I start thinking, well, wouldn't it be better if I just drove theirs? Right. So you start thinking about all of these areas of pain, i.e., trauma, and ask yourself, how can I leverage it? Right. And I can go on and on about, the pain of not being able to finish stuff, like I said earlier, and then just creating a company that would encompass these starts, these tries, and then start leveraging that. That's when I started thinking about monetizing things. Right. And, now I call myself the monetize your life guy, blah, blah, blah. And then I got a whole ecosystem around monetizing things. But it came out of my knowing I couldn't finish stuff. And I didn't dig into the psychology at that particular time as to, well, why can't you finish stuff? I didn't dig into it as much as I did later on in life. But early on, I just says, well, I'm just gonna put stuff in this big old area of I've started things. And then eventually what it became is scaffolding. And I didn't realize it at the time, but all these starts were like scaffolding. And once I had enough scaffolding, I could literally look at the scaffolding and says, I can climb that and get to another level. But if I had just let the trauma of not being able to start stuff inform me in such a way that I start thinking badly about myself, it's like you could never finish anything and all that kind of stuff, then I'd have never saw the opportunity that was right there in front of me. And that all these starts literally are scaffolding or however you want to say it, planks that then build up, whatever it is, that one day you can stand on those planks, those starts, those failures, those whatevers, and now you're taller and you can see wherever you want to go or you can climb to wherever you want to go.
Absolutely love that. And something key that you just said, self-talk, right? what is it that we say to ourselves? How do we, how do we encourage ourselves? What type of information do we allow in, and I love that. What would you say? Well, you said it in a way, though. What would you say to someone that's facing trauma and have this burning desire to be an entrepreneur, that then they're facing the trauma, maybe aware of it or unaware of it, but they just know there's a bottleneck to their success.
Yeah, it's fuel,
Mhm.
right? I mean, ultimately, if we start looking at it and go, well, within the bottleneck is something just stopping it, but there's something that's trying to flow. That becomes, I think, the seeing the opportunity. There's something trying to flow. There's something stopping it. And you start looking at it like an engineer might. It says, well, let's remove the constraint. And then you have power. It's really interesting. I remember when I was reading a book, it was an old book, and it kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me because it was an engineering book. But all they talked about was, an entrepreneur can show up when you look at things from an engineering perspective, right? And the engineer is looking at what can I remove that would affect the whatever I'm trying to build. In other words, remove a constraint. And it informed me in a way that I started going, yeah, how could I remove the constraint? All right, all right, all right. I remember trying to write a book, right? Which is, I look at it as a little business. And I says, but you only type 26 words a minute, bro. Well, that's going to be a long time before that book is written.
Right.
So I says, well, let's remove the constraint. And the constraint was trying to type when you're not a typist. So I said, well, what can I do well? Well, I can talk. So then
Mhm.
I started thinking, well, okay, I got some software. I remember it was my second book that I wrote. I got me some software, and it was bad too. It was like I'm not even gonna say the name because they might try to call me,
Yeah.
but it was just bad, right? It didn't record well and all that kind of stuff. But my point is I was able to get like tons of words, like 40 to 50,000 words in a short amount of time. I removed the constraint. So if
Mm.
you're out there, you're entrepreneuring and you know that you got some stuff going on, all right, you got some fuel, but the way the fuel has been used has been burning stuff down. Then you say to yourself, okay, fuel, if contained in the right way, could be something that propels me to the skies. In other words, rocket fuel by itself could burn down a nation, but rocket fuel contained in a specific way and released at a certain time could get you to the moon. Look at it like that. Look at some of the things that has been shaken up in your life like that. Some of this trauma, man, is the very thing that could propel you past all the other people around you that are maybe, living in mediocrity or whatever it is, right? They've been traumatized, whatever, but it's informed them in a negative way. And you look at it like, I need to get away from this pain and I'm going to do whatever I can to let it be rocket fuel for me. And then do it with a coach. Do it with
Yes.
somebody that can go, okay, here's how you release a little bit, right? So that you don't just burn up everything. Here's how you release a little bit so that it gets you to where you want to go. And then when you get there, you get better. And then next, you get better. And then next, you get better. But at the same time, you have a goal to where you want to get to, and you just release enough to get there. And once you're there, you're not only feeling better, but you've achieved your goal. So you use it as fuel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I often say that, all of the great pro athletes, they have coaches. Nobody has become great without a coach, right? And so why do we think that we can, create this great, empire or this, business without having a coach that knows what we don't know and can help us get there? So that's absolutely incredible. And what we've done is we've put together a checklist, because if you see that trauma may be affecting you in your entrepreneurship or your entrepreneur endeavor or your business, you may want to go through the checklist and just see if there are some things that, myself, that Randy can help you to walk through. But first of all, we're talking about awareness. We talk about awareness all the time because oftentimes that's what's holding us back, because we're not even aware of how trauma is stopping us, right? Or
Mhm.
how trauma is causing that deficit in our business, or keeping us from getting to the next level, because we're using ourselves as our frame of reference. And I just
Mhm.
want to say this too. We talked about the kaleidoscope. So if you're looking through that lens, or through that kaleidoscope type focus, then if it's not in the clear focus, how do we think that we're going to get achieve the results in which we can achieve. So I'm just so grateful to have you here. We will have the link for the checklist in somewhere in the description, if it's not the description, but somewhere, along for you to be able to grab it and to get that checklist. Randy, if somebody wanted to get back in contact with you, because, again, like, I thank you so much for being such an amazing coach, how would they get in contact with you?
And one of the best ways is direct email. Now, I don't like sending you to, IG pages and all that kind of stuff, or my, YouTube channel. I've got a ton of stuff on my YouTube channel, probably about 130 different videos on there. I say, get directly in touch with me. So you can go to my name. If you look at it on the screen here, Randy Otterbridge at gmail.com. I don't even send you over to the business email, right? I got a business email, but I go, okay, if you want to talk to me directly, just go to Randy Otterbridge at gmail.com. Throw in your question, ask me what you want to ask me, and I will answer you.
He is amazing, you all. He will answer you. And I tell you, it made the difference between light and day with me. So I am so grateful. And I thank you for your time today. Just, taking the time out of your schedule to come in and, just shed some light on this trauma and entrepreneurship. So again, thank you so much.
All right. I appreciate you.
All right, you all. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye for now. It's time to buckle up. No more suffering in silence. Our Power Pack journey to recovery and realignment starts now. Remember, you were collateral damage on someone else's warpath. Trauma is not your fault. Recovery, however, is your responsibility. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast.